Coming into the 2023 season, there were a lot of unanswered questions for Syracuse football. At one point, would running back LaQuint Allen be back with the program? How would linebacker Marlowe Wax step into the leadership position with Michael Jones off to the NFL? Would quarterback Garrett Schrader be ready to go after his offseason elbow surgery? Well, a lot of those questions were answered and in a definitive way with SU's 65-0 thrashing of Colgate earlier tonight. We'll break it all down in the first episode of the year. It's Orange Press Pass. It's live. It's Citrus TV, and it starts right now. Hello and welcome inside the Citrus TV studios for the first Orange Press Pass of the year alongside Carson, Fowler, and Sam Reis. I'm Nick Luttrell. We'll have Chilekasi, Adele to talk to later, who is inside the dome to watch tonight. But guys, Syracuse football is 1-0. Absolute thrashing of Colgate, 65-0. The largest win in the Dino Babers era. Where are we at? First thoughts, Carson. Give me your first thoughts from what you just watched.
Nick, this is an FCS team. Syracuse was supposed to win this game. Syracuse is actually a perfect 21-0 now against FCS teams. Yep. This is a Colgate team that was 3-8 last season. Business as usual. My first thoughts.
Right, and considering the opponent as you brought up, this game still played out in an ideal manner for Syracuse. Of course, it was a punt on the first drive offensively, and you were maybe thinking, come on, let's get going. And that they did. The starters had its opportunity to impress, and that's what they did throughout the first half, even early third quarter. And then also, it was ideal in the sense that so many backups had the opportunity to get some meaningful playing time and a chance to prove themselves early on in this campaign.
Well, it was a star-studded performance from just about everybody on the Syracuse football team, and we'll get to that later. We'll get to a lot of fun topics we'll get to talk about with each other. But right now, let's get to the highlights between Syracuse and Colgate and see how it all went down inside the JMA Wireless Dome. Opener for Syracuse football, and yeah, you guys already know they won, but let's watch some highlights. Garrett Schrader getting it started off, throwing that deep ball to Damian Alford, 13-yard touchdown, 14-zip Syracuse early on, but we can't not give love to the defense for shutting out the Raiders. Jeremiah Wilson, pick six. It's Jerry's world. We're all just living in it. Absolute phenomenal performance from the defensive side of the Syracuse football program tonight. And Garrett Schrader just doing what he does best, getting outside the pocket, finding Isaiah Jones for that touchdown. 37-0 for Syracuse at halftime. Del Rio Wilson back up into the game. That's what's so fun about this second half. Watching guys who didn't get an opportunity last season, maybe won't get an opportunity the rest of the year, get snaps in this game. A guy we have to talk about who Del Rio Wilson finds right here, Gerald Gill Jr. I'll be honest, I didn't even know who that guy was coming into this game. He's a freshman, his first career touchdown, and you can see he's fired up, as was the crowd and this entire Syracuse football team, as Syracuse got the win 65-0 as we take a look at some of those stats. Sam, we'll start with you. You look at the quarterbacks and the running backs from both of those teams. What sticks out to you?
Well, how about Garrett Schrader? An 18 for 24 performance, 257 yards, 4 touchdowns, which is the most he's thrown as a Syracuse player. And he had some incompletions early that were a bit concerning, but once he got on the same page with his star guys like Arande Gadsden, he was very comfortable even moving outside the pocket, making some passes deep down the field.
Nick, Sam, I was pleasantly surprised by LaQuint Allen. 16 attempts on the ground, 107 yards and a touchdown. This is a guy that's really only played one full game of football. That was the Bad Boy Mowers Bowl last year. So really excited to see him take a selfie with the fans after the game. I'm really excited for the kid. It's going to be a good year.
Lots of excitement from this team, from the quarterback to the running back, offense, defense, even special teams. There are some highlights today. Well, it's break time coming up here on Orange Press Pass, but when we return, we'll take a look at the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Orange Press Pass will be right back.
took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Welcome back to Orange Press Pass here inside the CitrusTV studios. Carson, Fowler, Sam, Reis, alongside me, Nick Luttrell. Now, our reporter Chilekasi Adele was standing live just a few moments ago to tell us his thoughts about this dominating performance from the Syracuse Orange. Chile, what do you got for us?
A decent crowd for today's season opener against Colgate. Syracuse delivering a round, 65-0. Here's some things I noticed today. Garrett Schrader and Dino Babers talked about it a little bit after the game. He looked sharp in the pocket today. He also looked like somebody who protected himself. He was someone who was getting out of bounds. He was somebody who was sliding when he needs to, realizing that he doesn't need to go and take all those unnecessary hits, and that's something he said after the game. Another thing I noticed, talking about backups. Carlos Del Rio Wilson, I've been on this campus for a while, and I think this is probably the sharpest game that he's played. I saw him come out in the third quarter and absolutely delivered, I'm pretty sure, 3 touchdowns in that third quarter. Absolutely sharp from him. This whole offense really looks sharp, and the defense looks sharp too. One of the things I noticed about the defense is that they were not timid this entire time. They came out with pressure early. They were blitzing early, a couple of sacks there. Michael Brescia, the quarterback for Colgate, threw 2 picks today. Last year, he threw 6 all season. So in one game, he's reached a third of that interception total, and this is somebody that only threw 7 touchdowns last season. Today, none, and none for the defense, none for the run game either. No touchdowns, and to me, that's very rare to see in a game like this. Usually you've got these big routes, 62-7, 62-21, or something like that, but there was a big giant goose egg on the top of that scoreboard today, and that tells you everything you need to know. This team came out, they wanted to execute, they executed to a T. A little bit of things to fix. Dino Babers talked about the penalties after the game, 7 of them for 60 yards. He says that's something they're going to fix going into next week against Western Michigan. That's something, again, that's carried over the course of last season, but it's something we're going to have to watch to see here at the JMA Wireless Dome and see whether they're going to fix going forward.
Chile, thanks so much, and we'll be really excited to watch your coverage and the other seniors' coverage throughout this football season. So as I mentioned, a dominating performance. That doesn't mean there wasn't mistakes that the Orange made today. Carson, we'll start with you. What jumped out to you in this regard as far as mistakes? I don't know if there was much, but what about mistakes for you?
Well, Nick, what I'm looking for in a game like this, which is kind of like a tune-up, right? You're just trying to make it go towards the end of the season. This is not a game you're supposed to lose.
Yeah.
But 4 forced fumbles against the Syracuse Orange and a pick by Garrett Schrader in the red zone. Those are mistakes that cannot be made, and those are going to be detrimental towards the end of the season when you're playing the UNCs of the world, the Wake Forests, these teams that will make it count and capitalize off of those turnovers with points.
You can't have those turnovers. Know what you also can't have, Carson? Penalties. And that was an issue today. Of course, the score is what it is, but still, 7 penalties for 60 yards, that is unacceptable. A few of them came early on, but even stupid ones in the fourth quarter with an unnecessary roughness penalty, late hit out of bounds. Being undisciplined was a bad characteristic of this team last season, and it can't be something that carries over into this season if they want to win those big games.
Absolutely.
Now, there's a little bit of negatives from today. We'll try to turn and spin it and have some positives between Syracuse and Colgate that occurred today. We know the two-headed monster between Garrett Schrader and Aronde Gadsden. You throw in LaQuint Allen, and that makes it a big 3. That's really scary for opposing teams' defenses going into this season. Sam, we'll start out to you. What do you see out of the 3 of them today? They're going to be the leaders of this team. What do you see out of them?
Yeah, I think you can't really complain about what you saw from them. I touched on Schrader earlier. a respectable stat line, a pretty good one with the amount of touchdowns he threw. And overall, LeQuint Allen, 107 yards. You can only imagine how eager he was to get back onto the playing field after everything he's gone through over the summer, and really allowing Sean Tucker to be his mentor last season and getting his opportunity at the Dome with the lights shining bright. And then 6 receptions for 57 yards for Gadsden. Had a couple of long catches. Love to see it. Again, really can't have any complaints about these guys who will have a huge impact on this offense all season.
For sure.
This is what I told our producers. This is the three-headed hydra, not monster. This is a hydra for the Syracuse offense this season. All of these guys are coming off massive years. Obviously, LeQuint Allen, not a huge year, only played one game, but I believe this is a diamond in the rough. Can be that Sean Tucker type player for the Syracuse Orange in 2023. I believe he can. Obviously, Gadsden coming off a record-breaking year. He had 61 catches, almost 1,000 yards in the air. I believe this is going to be a really good offense this year for Syracuse.
Yeah, so let's go from the offense to the defensive side of the ball. We can't not give credit to this defense that shut out the Raiders, as good or bad as they actually may be. You look at the guys up front. Caleb Okechukwu, Kevin Darton, Marlowe Wax, that Mob squad, the hosts of the Mob podcast, a few that I just included. Syracuse football head coach Dino Babers said this is probably the deepest defense and all-around squad they have since a few years ago, honestly. Carson, did you see that depth today when you were watching the first half and even some of those backups coming in? What did you see out of that defense?
Well, there's exits of obviously Garrett Williams and Michael Jones, so big holes to fill in this Syracuse defense. Yeah. But Marlowe Wax led the team in tackles last year with 91, also led the team in tackles for loss. This is going to be a very good defense. I'm really excited. Another thing to look at for this team, Justin Barron. I thought he was flying around the field today. I think Marlowe Wax was credited with a forced fumble that might have been his. Despite all of that, I'm really excited for the Syracuse team. It seems like Nick said, this is going to be the Mob squad.
You just touched on it a little bit, Carson. What stood out to me really was the veterans and leaders of this team really setting the tone early on. Marlowe Wax had an early sack, and I do believe you're correct. It was actually Justin Barron who forced that fumble. You need those veterans to step up with those absences and departures that you mentioned from last season, and I felt like that's what they did for the most part throughout this game, especially in the early stages.
Absolutely.
Well, absolutely, guys. And you talk about the defense, you talk about the offense. We can't not talk about this Syracuse football game without mentioning our player of the game. The moment you've all been waiting for, maybe you didn't even know was coming, our Orange Press Pass player of the game is Garrett Schrader. The SU quarterback completed 18 of his 24 pass attempts for 257 yards and 4 touchdowns. Throw on another 40 yards rushing, and there's no way we can't give it to QB1. All right, another break on Orange Press Pass coming up. When we return, Sam, Carson, and myself will be back here at the wall playing a little game of Crystal Ball. You guys want to see the future of Syracuse football? Well, stick around. We'll be right back.
Jason, let's go see your room.
What do you think? We kept it a little spare, so you can decorate it how you like.
Dinner! Go?
Excellent. Yeah, I saw you guys out there. We're the family. Oh, I thought you were on my team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Orange Press Pass. Nick Luttrell alongside Carson, Fowler, Sam Reis. Syracuse gets a dominating 65-0 win over Colgate to open the season. And you've noticed we're at a different location here. You can probably read it on the board right here. It's crystal ball time. It's game time. I'm going to ask you guys a few questions just about the future of Syracuse football. You guys are you're gonna give me your best guess at the future of this season. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay.
I'm excited.
All right, so first question up. Let's talk about QB1. We've talked about him all show long. Garrett Shrader, how do you see his confidence improving throughout the season? Carson, we'll start with you.
Nick, I'm looking at a few things, 3 in particular. 2 are words, 1 is a person. The 2 words are balance and poise. I thought he had both of those things tonight. He found 6 receivers to target tonight, which is a great number when you're trying to look at a balanced offense. Another thing, I thought he looked very poised in the pocket, which is something I think he struggled with a little bit last year. And I always noticed he was keeping his eyes downfield, never, checking down, looking to run, always looking downfield. Look, always find the receiver. Obviously not getting the play there, but something that I liked, Jason Beck, the offensive coordinator, obviously. I think this is something that's going to be really detrimental for Garrett Shrader, having that guy come back and have a little confidence. His presence, I think, will be helpful for him.
Definitely. Sam, what about you?
Yeah, absolutely. There's only so much we can take out of this first game of the season against a Colgate team that Syracuse dominated. However, we know Shrader is someone who's a very experienced player at this point, and I want to focus on his primary receiver, and that's Oronde Gadsden. Gadsden, of course, didn't play a whole lot in his freshman campaign. Last year was his first true season, so having developed that chemistry all of last year in 2022, I think will be crucial for Garrett Shrader's confidence, and those two will be on the same page more. I think they can do something special this season, and that'll give Shrader even more confidence.
Well, Sam, the starting tight end, Oronde Gadsden, Carson, the offensive coordinator, Jason Beck, 2 people that are so important and crucial to Garrett Shrader's success this season. So again, moving from offense to the defensive side of the ball, Rocky Long comes in, the godfather of the 3-3-5, comes to run in what Tony White left. So Rocky Long with this 3-3-5, what impact do you see him making as just how good he is, how much experience he has, I should say? Sam, what do you think?
Experience. That's the key word. Rocky Long has been around forever, really, long before we were born, that's for sure. He's had so much experience in the coaching game on the defensive side of the ball, and that's crucial for a defensive group that people might have conflicting thoughts about because there were the key departures such as Michael Jones and Garrett Williams. So there are still plenty of question marks surrounding this team, some younger players that will need to step up. To have a veteran coach in Rocky Long leading the way defensively to teach those guys, I think that could go a long way, Carson.
Nick, 9 seasons at San Diego State, 3 Mountain West championships, but this is the ACC. This is this is a Power 5 conference. He's got big shoes to fill. Tony White led the Syracuse defense to what was likely a top 3 defense in the ACC. Very good, especially in the air. I think they only allowed about 180 yards per game, which was second best in the ACC. So my thoughts on this, big shoes to fill, but I am excited for Tony Long to be here in Syracuse.
For sure, yeah. So we looked at the offense, we've looked at the defense. Let's look at this season as a whole. Syracuse defense dominated, shut out Colgate tonight. Carson, will go to you first. Big question. It's a yes or no question, but I need you to explain your reasoning. An open response question.
Sure.
It's not multiple choice, okay? I need you to explain your reasoning. Will Syracuse shut out another opponent this season?
Nick, I think that's a tough question to ask or answer, really. Western Michigan, maybe. I think that's probably their best chance to make a shutout. But shutout in football is hard. Yeah. Playing 4 quarters of full football and allowing no points, and you got to assume that one guy's going to make a field goal that's 50 yards, or you're going to allow one play. Football is a game of plays, and there could be one play where a guy gets a 70-yard touchdown. I don't think it's going to happen.
Absolutely. I'm on the same page with you, Carson. If on the other side of things, if you get shut out, that's embarrassing. If you can't make a single field goal in a 60-minute contest, I mean, come on. And I agree that Western Michigan game is going to be their best shot to get a shutout if we're looking at any game this season. And even they are a significantly better opponent than Colgate. They'll get on the board. Syracuse is not shutting out another team this season.
Wow, not too confident from you guys. Not much optimism for the Syracuse faithful out there. Well, hopefully they're maybe more optimistic for this next question I have for you guys. Dino Babers been at the helm for a while now. We talked about earlier how this was the largest win in his time while coaching the Orange. Let's think about a year from now. Look into your crystal ball. 1 year from now, will he still be the head coach? Sam, we'll start with you.
Absolutely not. And I say that because we're at the year 2023. Dino Babers has been here since 2016. You know how many winning seasons he's had? 2. That's it, including last season. Dino Babers has had plenty of opportunities to prove himself and get this program back on track. It's been too many mediocre seasons, and even something as little as looking into today with the penalties, 7 of them. That was a big issue last season. It looks like it could be another issue this season. Those are things that the coach Dino Babers has to correct. And if that persists, I think this is a 5-7 team. It doesn't make a bowl game, and Dino Babers' time will come to an end.
Stan made great points. This is going to be a difficult year for the Orange. I think 5-7 is a pretty good number for them. This is a gauntlet ACC, a much better ACC than in years past. Clemson, Wake Forest, UNC, Florida State, all really, really talented football teams. Syracuse got to go on the road, and it's not easy to win on the road in these games.
No.
So I think 5-7 is a good number. I think they'll miss a bowl game, and Dino Babers is going to.
We're agreeing quite a bit today, Carson.
We are, Sam.
Dang, another pessimistic response from the both of you guys. I guess we'll just have to see how this is only week 1. We'll have to see how the rest of the season pans out for Syracuse football. One more break coming up on Orange Press Pass, but when we return, we'll wrap up the show with looking around the NCAA, ACC standings, and the next Orange Press Pass. We'll be right back.
Here's to the straggly ones, the lopsided ones, the first ones, the I miss my beard ones. Hey, I look good with this ones. But no way he's grown that in a week ones. The black, brown, red, and gray ones. That one. The itchy ones. The never forgotten ones. The ones grown by Dad. The ones grown for Dad. The started late ones. The absolutely filthy ones. The drawn on ones. The finger ones. The pin ones. The I nearly didn't do it this year ones. And the yeah, why not ones. They all raise awareness, raise funds, start conversations, and save lives. Because whatever you grow will save a bro. Learn more at Movember.com.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Orange Press Pass rolling on inside the CitrusTV studios once again. Carson, Fowler, Sam Reis, I'm Nick Luttrell. Syracuse opens the year with a dominating 65-0 performance over the Colgate Raiders. But we can't not look around the NCAA and see what all is going on outside of the ACC and Syracuse. We've got a couple scores going on right now. Carson, the first one that I see, Colorado over TCU. We mentioned this in our halftime show that if people missed it, they should have been there. It was legendary. But talk about that Colorado TCU game.
Nick, Colorado Prime and company came into this game as a 20-point underdog, end up getting a massive win over, that's actually supposed to say, number 17 TCU.
Right,
I'm sure Sonny Dykes was not expecting that kind of a dogfight down at TCU, so big win for Prime in Colorado.
We also take a look at an ACC team in North Carolina currently battling one of its non-conference rivals in South Carolina. A lot of hype surrounding that game. Of course, still in progress. UNC with a slim lead. The Tar Heels can get a win there. That could set the tone for a big season for them.
And you look at some of those others as we move on to the ACC standings. Now, not a lot has really happened yet. We're still, week 1. We had a little bit of week 0 games going on. But as of right now, 9 p.m. Eastern, Louisville, winning the conference. But that's not a big deal right now. What stands out to you about some of these teams when you look at what the future of the ACC is going to be like for this season? Sam, we'll start with you.
Boston College, what a sad sight. I mean, this is a team that lost to NIU today at home. Apparently, there were fire half-lead chants inside of Alumni Stadium. It was a bad sight at BC today, a horrible non-conference loss. You wonder why Bostonians don't care about Boston College and it's all about the professional teams. This is why. This is a program that's not in a good spot right now. Terrible start to the campaign.
I'm looking at on the bottom of the standings as well, Sam. Virginia absolutely thrashed by Tennessee, 49-10. Obviously, it just says 0-1. That doesn't really show what the scoreboard's like. That was a horrible game for Virginia. Like I said earlier, I think the top of the ACC is really strong. You're not seeing some of those teams yet, but the bottom of the ACC is going to struggle.
Yeah, and there's multiple things we can look at when looking at these standings, and a lot of those big name teams aren't on there, like the Clemson and the North Carolina. What sticks out to you guys? Like, who do you pick as your ACC champion real quick, and then we'll move on to our next topic. I know it's a big prediction here, but ACC champion, you guys got a pick yet? Clemson.
Jordan Travis and Florida State.
Florida State, yeah.
I'm excited for that LSU game this weekend.
Yeah.
I still think Clemson, in my opinion.
Okay.
It'll be close between them and Florida State, but I think the Tigers still the class of the ACC.
All right, so we're moving on from ACC standings to our next Orange Press Pass. Syracuse and Western Michigan. Western Michigan got the win. Syracuse got the win. Both teams headed in 1-0 into week 2. It's another game that you would expect Syracuse to take care of business. But Carson, what are you looking forward to for this game against these two opponents?
Nick, this is a bad Western Michigan team. They're 1-0 this year. Whoop-de-doo. They were 5-7 last year. They also lost their starting running back in Sean Tyler to Minnesota via the transfer portal. He was a 2-year, 1,000-yard rusher. Over 2,000 yards.
Wow.
That being gone, I think he was something that was necessary to even be in contention for a Syracuse win, but not going to happen. This should be a 2-0 victory for the Orange going into week 3.
100%. It's another game at the Dome. Home field advantage. We entered today saying have to absolutely take care of Colgate. The same goes for Western Michigan. A little bit of a better opponent, but it has to be a 2-0 start. No excuses. The Orange will go 2-0.
Well, guys, we've been talking for just about 30 minutes now. We're trying to wrap things up. And when you're thinking about this game, you're wrapping up your own individual thoughts. The fans are wrapping up their thoughts. What are you thinking? What are your final thoughts, Carson?
Nick, I've been optimistic most of the show. That's going to continue here. I'm optimistic for the Orange. Granted, it's Colgate. It was an FCS win. But I think Sam and I talked about it earlier. The starters got to break in some rust. The backups got some reps as well. I'd like to see a little bit more for LeQuint Allen. I think more screen action would be fun. Letting him, disguise the deep ball and then actually letting Allen go to work with Schrader. I think that'd be something I want to look for.
Sure, and maybe the pessimism that Nick accused me of earlier. We'll go into what my final thought is, but that's Syracuse fans, don't get your hopes up too much. This was a bad Colgate team that they played. Of course, Syracuse did what had to be done. With that being said, it's still a team with plenty of question marks at offense in particular, and that's what I'm looking at.
Well, we'll just have to see how the rest of the season winds up. That was week 1, but there's so much of college football left to be played. That's going to do it for Orange Press Pass alongside Sam Reis, Carson Fowler. I'm Nick Luttrell. Don't forget, next Saturday at 8:30, Syracuse football against Western Michigan. We'll see you then.